lovers, it's Jesselou here, your host of Big Love Energy Podcast. It is episode 5 of season 2. Today we are talking about love letters, reading between the lines. I've been working on a book for quite a long time now. I've talked about it plenty on my Instagram, but it's due to be released and launched this month at the end of November. So we're just going to take a sneak peek into the new book, and I'm going to read a selection of poems that I've created through some of the really tough times of my life and some of the brightest. And it's taken me many years to write, and I've held off on sharing it many a times, but I think that I did that unknowingly, because some of my best work has come in more recent times as I've sort of planted myself in this new chapter. So I'm really excited to share with you all. But yeah, we're going to get straight into it. Hi guys, welcome. I'm so excited to chat with you today, Monday, starting the week afresh. This is another solo episode today. A lot of you have written saying that you quite like the solo episodes, so I've got to give the people what they want. Thought today would be a good day to delve into the pages of my new book that launches at the end of this month. It has been a long time coming. Those long-time followers would know that I've sneak peeked it probably 53 times over the last 7 years. And it's looked the covers looked different multiple times, but there's no time like the present. And I really feel ready now to share my story in poetic form and see if it, resonates and helps people. We're going to read into that today. I thought I'd do a little catch up of the week that was. It's just really been all about moving. I'm finally in my new place, as a lot of you would have seen. I'm still a little bit in that limbo all over the shop. Like, for example, I cannot find my hair straightener for the life of me. So I've got things in boxes and half unpacked, half packed. But I'm sort of at that point where I'm like, this will do. I don't need a straightener. This is me now. That's where I'm at. And just leading up to Christmas, it's always full on with beautiful gifts and prints to be created. So I'm in the thick of that. So it's a lot right now, but I always enjoy our little weekly chats to sort of center. I thought I would start off by reading a little quote by one of my favorite poets. He's English, William Wordsworth. Go figure, a poet whose surname's Wordsworth. That's pretty, that's pretty out there. But he wrote, "Fill your paper with the breathings of your heart." And for me, I discovered poetry when I was, I would say, like 7, 8. My father actually introduced me to my first poem. It was Banjo Patterson's "The Man from Snowy River." And I got to say that it stayed with me only because all the sort of moments in my life when I felt all the feelings, all the emotions, and whether it was in my body and my head, but mainly my heart, I would always have this deep desire to put it on paper. And I don't know, I suppose over the years I sort of squashed that down a bit because it just is not the norm thing to do, I suppose, just to be writing poetry left, right and center. But I came back to it, I suppose, at the start of this Louis Luxe journey because it was always supposed to be my path, I suppose. And I remember, I even wrote a poem when Ben passed, and I read it at his funeral. I read the poem to his parents, and they were like, we would love for you to read that at the funeral. And I don't even have any, didn't keep it. I couldn't even tell you what it said. It was such a long time ago, and I didn't keep the notes. I remember even when I really got into CrossFit at one point, we were part of this CrossFit group page on Facebook, and I was so into CrossFit. I wrote a poem about CrossFit and shared it in that group. So it's always been something that I've just done. And there's been many times in between, whether it's writing in cards for friends and that sort of thing, I've always felt drawn to expressing myself on paper in that way. It's always come quite natural to me. But the first time I actually put it out there on the Louis Lux page, it was called Finding Louis back when I first started. I had already started selling prints because I'd been brushing out prints for people on Instagram, like brushing out certain quotes that other people had written, because I just thought it was just wild to me that anyone would want to buy my poetry. And then one day it was actually after Rafferty was born. I was breastfeeding him in the middle of the night, and I was just in this state of love, in that love bubble, that newborn bubble they talk about. And I just put him back down, and I just had this overwhelming urge to write a poem about my love for him and my hopes for him. And I remember the next day thinking, oh, I can't put that on my Instagram. Like, people are going to think I'm, too out there or too like away with the fairies. And it was just my own preconceived like conditioning of just being told that for so long, just that not to be too big and not to speak up too much, and how dare I have a stab at anything like that. So I just, was really scared to even share that when that happened. And that would have been 2015. So quite a while now. And I remember sitting on it for like a week, and I went, you know what, I'm going to write it really beautifully, letter it out, and just put it up on my socials and just see how it goes. And I just had such an overwhelming response of other mums and other, followers just reaching out going, oh my gosh, you just have such a way with words. You really wrote how I feel in my journey. And that, to me, I was like, this is what it's about, right? This connection, this feeling like we're all in this together. And that feeling has never stopped. Every time I've put my work out there, and whether it's just, in a caption on Instagram, or now the fact that it's included in so many of my prints that go out in the work that I do, and now this upcoming book, I just am so grateful that this has been where my life has led me, that I'm able to help people with the words that I write and make them feel seen and loved and heard and together in this human experience. And I never want to let that go. So I do feel that the more that I'm in the thick of, normally when life's quite heavy is probably when I write my deepest stuff, go figure. But also when I'm super happy as well. I've written many a poem by the ocean, looking at sunrises and sunsets and feeling really content. So I like to sort of go in with how I'm feeling, and my writing will always reflect the season I'm in as well. So on that, I thought I would start off. The first poem that I read today out of the book is the first poem that I shared on Instagram, and it was for Rafferty, and it was called Dream Baby. So here we go. I got my book here. I've bookmarked these little pages so I can come across them. This is quite surreal. Okay. Okay. Why do I feel like I'm at school reading out an assignment or something? I feel like a little kid. All right. My wish for you is to dream, baby. Dream big, dream grand, dream far and wide. Use your head and your heart. Share with the world what's inside. Surround yourself with good people. Do not live in fear. At times when we are apart, know that in my heart I keep you near. There will be tough times. They too shall pass. Remember to focus on the good, for this life goes by so fast. So live, learn, love, and above all dream. of all the great things you can do, see, and be. Believe in yourself and you will achieve. Anything is possible. If you want it enough, you'll see. All of this I know for sure, as you were a dream come true for me. So my wish for you is to dream. For you are my dream baby. Riff raff. And now he looks at me and calls me an esche all these years on. But yeah, that was a little insight into where I was at that time, just in that love bubble with little riff raff. And yeah, went on to, release that poem, and has a little matching onesie. And there's been so many people that have come back and said, I've gifted that to a girlfriend at her baby shower or when they're meeting the baby. And I get so many pictures of bubs in their dream baby onesie with that poem next to them. And as you can imagine, it's pretty full circle for me. It's pretty special, knowing how hard I fought for that little guy and the joy he's brought me. So from there, I thought I would talk a little bit about the ebbs and flows of my writing journey. I definitely, once I opened that sort of floodgate, it really, you couldn't stop me. I was writing constantly. I was sharing on my Instagram, and back then there wasn't as many pages that were dedicated to poetry. There wasn't like it is now, where there's so many, like it's that real, there's quotes left, right, and center, and I love it. But for me personally, I choose not to follow many other poets, especially modern day poets, because my biggest fear is definitely ever being, they say that if you consume it, there's that chance that you could possibly almost take on other people's style and concepts. And so I've been really protective of that, because I don't ever want to be put in that position where someone thinks that I would want someone to do it to me. So I would never want anyone to think that that's something that I've done to them. But I figure that everyone has their own experiences, and I write from my own personal experiences, and the feelings that I feel, and the hurt that I have had been through, and the hope that I hold in my heart. So I feel like as long as I stay true to that and write about those experiences, I'll be okay. So I suppose this next poem I want to share with you is at a time when I was going through, it was 2019, and I was really feeling the pull to just flip things on its head. I really felt that I needed to reclaim myself back, and I kept on seeing dandelions everywhere. And I went on this solo writing trip. I just sort of booked a trip one day, which was very unlike me. I'd been on one girl's trip my entire sort of adult life. And I booked this trip down to Sydney. My friend was having a baby shower. So I was like, I'm going to book a little Airbnb. I'm going to go write. And it was also a time that I was just like, I really need to really sit with myself and think how my future is going to look, because at that point I knew that if I kept on going the way that I was, it wasn't going to end well. So I went on this little solo writing trip, and I was sitting in this beautiful leafy apartment, Airbnb, I'm going to butcher the pronunciation of this Balgower. It's in Sydney. It's like in Manly. But it was this really quaint unit overlooking this leafy park. And anyway, I'd go for walks in the morning, and I kept on seeing dandelions. And I'd always see dandelions at like real prominent moments of my life where I sort of needed a sign. So I wrote this poem called Dandelion, go figure. And it goes a little something like this. Although it seems I've fallen apart, this is not the end. It is just the start. I surrender my path to the wind, trust the process, let love in. Floating high, dipping low, so the story of life goes. Finding peace wherever I land, here I'll grow, all part of the plan. Delicately strong, this will to survive, to believe in me is to keep hope alive. Dandelion. yeah, I shared that at that time. And yeah, it was sort of a bit of an announcement to the world, or myself really, that I was ready for change and ready to trust the process. And just like a dandelion that seems like it's falling apart as you blow into it, it's actually replanting itself in a really beautiful way. So yeah, that's that. Okay, so on to the next. To give you some insight as to how my brain works, I got a really bad ear infection. It would have been like 18 months ago, and I was in so much pain, and I actually couldn't. It actually paralyzed the side of my face that the earache was on. It has a name. I can't remember what it was, but it was bad. It was the most excruciating pain I've ever been in, and it was just me and the boys at the time, and I just felt so helpless because I was in so much pain, and I hated them seeing me like that. And the doctor was like, put me on all these meds, and he's like, you've just got to rest. And I lost hearing in my ear, and half my face had like collapsed. And in that time of healing, it was over like, I'd say 8 days. I just was reminded about how important it is when you are good and healthy to really be grateful for your body, your senses, and the ability to just the most simple things. So I wrote a poem, as people do when they're sick, and yeah, it'll hopefully give you a bit of insight as to how deeply I feel when something like that rattles you a little bit. So it's called Senses. I don't think I've shared this before. Anyway. I wish to immerse in life so deeply that if any of my senses were to leave, the enchantment of their power be too strong to abandon my memory. May the colours of the rainbow and beyond, and the many faces I have come to love, be just a few of the indelible visions my sight never is able to let go of. May I feel the rhythm of a song so moving I never forget how to dance, and the ballad of the ocean etched in my bones if my sound were to be taken away by chance. May I forever be wrapped up in the aromas of my baby's firstborn clothes, the scent of a rose I hope to always know, if the intricate ability to smell were to somehow go. May I travel to far and foreign places, or be lost in delight at my kitchen table, with each bite of my favourite food, if to taste I was suddenly no longer able. May the warmth of a hug, the sun on my face, the softness of a lover's lips, be forever haunting and tantalizing me if touch was to ever depart my fingertips. So let me be, sensitive to it all, taking it all in, memory hard at work, as intense as it may be. To live a life grateful and insensibly love with it all is all that will ever make sense to me. Yeah, I like that one. It makes me feel okay for being a over-feeling weirdo that just loves life really a lot. So now we're going to go into a time of my life where, I suppose this one is another, like, you'll see in the book when it comes out that there are significant chapters. There's the old Jessie where she was just like, yep, I'm just finding my voice. I'm going to write about things that I just make me feel good, and focusing on the good. Even when, as you know, if you've listened to this podcast, there hadn't been much to choose from. I could have written a lot of dark things along the way, and I just chose not to. I chose to focus on the good. And then I got to a point where I was like, I don't need to hide my story. I'm not hurting anyone. I'm just speaking my truth. And in doing that, it's allowing other people to realize their truth and deal with their own stories and in turn heal. So there was a definite period where I really found my voice about talking about my trauma of the abuse I'd been through. And yeah, I can't wait to share this book because it in my own poetic way, it talks about that journey. And this is one of the poems that sort of touches on that. Somewhere between girl and woman, her trust had turned to dust, and she would spend the rest of her moments and captures of time protecting her heart and mind, hoping, waiting for some kind of sign that it was safe for her walls to fall. Short but sweet. It's taking all my might not to read every single poem in this book, but I'll leave you with that. And now we're going to go to another time in my life, more recently. You know when I'm in love, when I start writing poetry, like the first week of meeting you and drop it on Instagram like it's nothing. I actually got in trouble for this because when I met my current partner, Hayden, the poet in me just wanted to sing it out aloud, like I'm in love. And I shared it on my Insta, and he was like, whoa. He's like, yeah, you've nailed it. I feel the same way, but everyone's going to freak out. So I haven't shared it since, but I thought today is my podcast. I do what I want. And it's called Twin Flame. Finding you has made my beaten heart feel shatterproof, and I think not that the timing of it all be a mere coincidence, but magic. To be both on this side of healing, open to feeling, casually stealing glimpses of each other's knowing smiles. Without a word spoken, it all makes sense now. I love you, Hayden. So yeah, that's Jesselou on fire, just with emoji heart eyes. Like I said, I could go on. I've got the book in my hands, and I'm so excited to share more with you. And I think when we do launch, we will have an event where we do more of a full-on live reading of the book. But for now, I think that's all that we're willing to share. But hopefully it gives you a little bit of insight on the the variation of what I cover, just touching on it, I suppose. There's hopefully something in there for everyone. There's a bit of, the dark times, but that's life. But with every poem that touches on that, I promise you it bounces back with love and hope and, my take on it all. So we're going to go into our segments. We've got love letters because we put up a question box as we do on the Big Love Energy page, and you beautifully sent through your questions. So I'll answer them now for you. Love letters. Okay. Who are your fave poets or fave piece of writing? I definitely love Maya Angelou, the OG, bless her soul. I remember reading, I had a poetry book of hers growing up and just reading her poetry, not even really knowing, just how much it was helping me. I think that's the beauty of poetry. Like, you find it when you need it. And I needed it a whole lot, obviously, growing up. And I don't know, maybe it's why I'm such a positive Polly these days. But, her writing made me feel deeply and allowed me to, know that it was okay for me to feel the way that I felt deeply for so long. And, but I definitely had that tie to Banjo Patterson as well, The Man from Snowy River. I read it now, the poem, and I'm like, oh, it's pretty advanced for a 7-year-old to be reading. But I think, just that familiarity and having it shown to me at such a young age. And I suppose it's just that little connection that I have with my dad that I choose to hold on to. And then, like I said before, modern day poets, and there's none, like, I know there are so many talented poets out there doing their thing, and the more the better. There's plenty out there for everyone. But I don't go out seeking, words from other people at this point in time. There might be a point in time where I'm like, I actually want to delve into other people's works. I'm more likely to listen to music at this point in my life. But I just try and stay in my own lane. And it's the same with my artwork. Like I just don't want to risk ever blurring those lines of creativity and being, unawareingly the writer.
That's 2 words you made up.
It's the second word I made up. I do what I want. What's the word? Unwittingly. Risk ever emulating someone else's work. So yeah, I try and stay in my own lane as much as possible. Second question. This is off topic, but do you have any Christmas traditions? Maybe it's because I put my Christmas tree up on the ground this week that this was asked, but I like it. I like this question. No, I don't have any traditions. Look, Christmas growing up was always, I don't know if you guys are the same, but growing up in a household that was erratic and tumultuous, the milestone days, it was like condensed. It was like you put so much pressure on, we will be happy and get along together today, and it just made things worse because emotions are high and things you just literally set such a high precedent for the day, and when they don't go to plan because your family doesn't function normally, it all comes crashing down. So growing up, Christmas Day normally ended up not great. And we didn't really have any traditions. I remember, doing the usual things as a kid the night before, like prodding your presents and trying to guess what things were. We were normally invited to a friend's barbecue where we were always like 3 hours late for, because that's just how my mum rolled. That's those memories of my Christmas traditions growing up. So I do like to think that I've definitely more and more recent years being on my own with the kids, like tried to create our own feelings around Christmas. And I suppose I am hyper aware that I'm not going to recreate those feelings, that I don't want them to feel like mum's down or whatever because things haven't worked out how they originally I thought they would. Just really try and be present on the day. I share custody, and we always share the kids on Christmas Day, not together, but 50-50, which that in itself it's hard. It's really hard. But what I've learned in life is that sometimes things it is what it is, and you've got to make the most of the situation. And a lot of people have it a lot more worse than we do. So I just really make sure that I'm present with my kids when I've got them on Christmas Day. And to be honest, I try and spread that love all year round. So we'll always literally it'll be about good food, being together, enjoying the presents that we've got on the day, and just enjoying that time together that we've got, and just really expressing the love even more so than normally. That's about as traditional as we get. We do Elf on the Shelf, which is always a good time. Question number 3, what made you start writing this book? This book, I suppose it was just the next, as they piled up, I'd have sheets and sheets on my desk at home, and the idea of releasing a book was far beyond, in my self-worth journey. I was like, that's why it's taken so long for me to release this. I felt like I've not been worthy to release a book. Who's going to read it? Who's going to read it and judge? Who's going to shit on it? But the more I've come into my own and on this self-love journey, I'm like, hell yeah, I'm releasing a book, and I don't care if no one reads it. I don't care who it hurts or makes, at least it makes them feel like there's nothing in here that is intentionally going to make this is my perspective of how I see life, and I'll tell you, I'm a pretty positive person, so everyone gets off really lightly. And I've gotten to a point where I just want to. I know that this will land on the laps of women who probably have been in a space that I've been in that need words of strength from someone who's been through it. So I definitely in more recent years went, no, this book has to happen. And I've just been tweaking it. And at first I was worried about, do I just write about the dark? Do I just, do I do different books that, because I've been through so many chapters of my life, do I do all these different books that cover that sort of loss, grief angle? Do I do one about just love and hope? And then do I do one about, girl power and women finding their feet? And then I went, no, I'm going to do it in one book. This will be the first book that I do. There's probably be more, and there'll be significant chapters because that's how it's played out in my life. There've been definite, clear chapters, and that makes sense in a book generally. So we're rolling with that, and I'm so excited. Now we are going to do our words to live your week by. This episode has been all about words, and if you're listening, you probably don't mind the words, so this is a good thing. I will finish with one last poem that sort of summarizes it all. Words to live your week by. All right, so this week's words to live your week by, I suppose you're not going to write a book in this week, but I wanted to share some words. I think the moment I wrote these down when I was like, I'm just going to write my story, and hopefully that in turn gives you some strength to just go and do what you need and want to do to make you come alive. So yeah, this poem goes a little something like this. The thing is, I would rather stay up and fill these pages with all there is to express from those heavy years. Tired of going to bed, buried in the dark, a head a mess, a heart suppressed, a pillow soaked in tears. So bright-eyed she sits for as long as she needs, a soul awakening with every letter. The night and her dreams, no longer she fears. All right, lovers, I hope you loved that episode, and I hope you're as excited as I am about the release of the book. If you do want to pre-order, the pre-orders are open now, and I think you can get it via the link on the Big Love Energy podcast Insta page, as well as the Louis Lux Insta, and of course louislux.com. We'll put all the links in the show notes anyway, but yeah, I am so excited, and I just can't wait to get it out there. But sending you love. Have an amazing week, and I will speak to you next week. Bye. I don't want just anybody. Let me treat you like